Hello and welcome to this exciting video where we will deploy a data pipeline into Microsoft Azure. In the previous video, we created a data pipeline using Dagster to orchestrate this data pipeline with DLT, DBT, and DuckDB. We put in a schedule that the DLT job will run at a certain time each day. And then afterwards, we took this whole data pipeline and dockerized into two different Docker containers, two services in our Docker Compose. One was the Streamlit application, the dashboard, and the other one was the whole data pipeline. The idea is that this was living locally in our own computer, even if we have Dockerized it. Now it's time to move it up to the cloud. How do we do this? We will take use of something called Azure Container Registry, and then we will spin up the container using Azure Container Instance that run the Dagster pipeline in containers in the cloud. That is quite cool, but we still need to put our database or our data warehouse somewhere, since we're using DuckDB now and not, for example, Snowflake, which we started with. With the DuckDB, then we need to place it somewhere, and to do that we will take use of Azure storage account, and then we could take something called File Share there. Using File Share we can access these files. Then we can access this data warehouse through the File Share, or the DuckDB file basically. And also we need to put in profiles.yaml. We can place it in File Share. And this profiles.yaml, we create a very simple one that just contains DuckDB. There's no credentials there. We place it into File Share, and then when we actually create our container instance, it will mount this File Share. And when it's mounting it will be able to connect to the .dbt/profiles.yaml and get our connection details. This is really cool, I think, since now it's time to actually make this live. And also in this video, I will divide it into two parts. In this video, we'll focus on the data pipeline part and get it up into Azure Container Registry and Azure Container Instance. And also we will place our new profiles.yaml inside of File Share. That is the idea of this video. And in the next one, we will go on to actually creating a web app to show the dashboard. Let's move on to Visual Studio Code and start over there. Here I am in Visual Studio Code, and as you've seen, this is the same as from the previous lecture. I've just copied it and created a new name for it basically. Just to get started, we'll do docker compose -d so that you can see what has been done. We run these containers now, and when now I go into my browser, and here localhost 3000. And you can see this is my assets. These are, you can see the lineage here. We have the DLT job, we have this dimension and fact, and we have this mart table. After materializing this, all the data will go into our DuckDB. It goes into, it's materializing now, and then we can go on to our other container, which is localhost 8501. And this one is for the dashboard part, which connects to the DuckDB data warehouse. Then we go into localhost 8501, and you can see here, this is the technical field job ads, and it works. Basically, if we go back to Visual Studio Code now, you can see there's this data warehouse job ads.duckdb. There, the data is stored over there. This is how far we came from last video. In this video now, let's start with creating, actually I will create a new profiles here, profiles.yaml. Why do I create this one? Well, it's because this one is the one that I want to place into my Azure file, my storage account, Azure File Share, that I don't want to put in the whole profiles.yaml, which I have a lot of different projects. This is the only one here, and for DuckDB, there's no credentials. Just write this one now. I will type in my profiles. I'm also dbt DuckDB. Basically, if you followed along in the last video, this is the same, but I will just call it dbt DuckDB Docker instead of DuckDB Docker local. Okay, and then targets, we have dev, we have outputs, and dev. Actually, I could call it production, but let's call it like this. It doesn't matter now. Paul. We have this environment variable that we will pick out, and envar, and then let's see, DuckDB underscore path. And that is it. This is my profiles.yaml, and I just store it here now. But make sure if you're in Git ignore, if you have Git, if this should be your GitHub repository, of course, then you should have in your Git ignore. It doesn't matter now, but you can have like profiles.yaml here, that this ignores this file, that it doesn't go up into GitHub or version control in Git. The idea is that I just wanted to write it here, that I will place this into file share soon into an Azure storage account. Let's continue now. We need to change a little bit here before we actually go into Azure, I think. The profiles.yaml, we don't need to change it, but we'll change a few other things. Dockerfile.dashboard, I will not care about that now. I will have dockerfile.data warehouse. This one is the one that I will care about. These in environment here, I will remove them. And the reason for why I will remove them here is because this is used locally. Locally, what we did was we put in this dbt profiles directory, this pipeline, and this DuckDB path where the DuckDB is, but this is no longer needed since we will send in environment variable, but those will be connected to our file share later on. I'll remove this. And then I will go into my Docker Compose, and here we need to change a little bit also. The dashboard, I won't need that one. I'll remove this one. I will just need this data warehouse pipeline. Okay, and also we will remove the volumes. This is not needed as we won't have any local volumes anymore. The data will live in file share. Remove this one. And also we will have another thing here is the image. Which image do we want? I will fill this in later after we have created ACR, Azure Container Registry. This is needed for we know where we have placed the data. Okay, now when we have this, it's time to go into the file share. Now I am in my Azure account, and let's start with creating our file share. To create a file share, we need to create a storage account. Let's start with that. Storage account. Here, close this one. Let's see, storage account. Here we have storage account. Create this one. Or we can click on this one and then we create storage account. Okay, here let's create a new resource group. To create this new resource group, I will call this rg-hr analytics dev. This is my resource group where I will put everything related to this HR analytics pipeline and the dashboard. Everything I will place in this resource group, as the resource group is the logical grouping. Here, this one is a new one. It will be created, and then storage account name. I will call it ST for storage, and then HR analytics, like this. We can see the storage account name STHR Analytics is already taken. Let's add a few numbers. If I take, for example, 1101, for example, which in binary numbers means 13, because 2 to the power of 3 is 8, 2 to the power of 2 is 4, 8 plus 4 is 12, plus 2 to the power of 0 is 1. 12 plus 1 is 13. This is just a nerdy thing, but the thing you need to know is that pick a unique name, a name that doesn't exist elsewhere. Apparently STHR Analytics already existed. I could not take that one. Okay, and probably you should pick other numbers, other combination. Yes. Preferred storage type. Let's see. What type do we want? We want to have Azure files. You can see in the storage account, you can create the different types of files, storage types. And for example, you can have this data lake storage Gen 2. You can have Azure files, tables and queues, etc. Here we choose Azure files. And then the rest I will leave as default. We can see performance, standard suffices. I don't need premium. I don't need SSD here. File share billing, pay as you go. File share, yes. And then redundancy, yes. I'll just keep it as normal. And then afterwards, review and create. Okay. It will have some validation to check that it's okay. And then it will create. Yes. And then just create. You saw before, there's actually several things that you can configure, but nothing that is essential for this particular use case now. If you want to learn more about the storage account, you should definitely take a look into the different tabs and try to understand what the different things mean there. There's a lot of things that can be chosen. Okay. You can see that it has been deployed. We have this resource group, and then we can go to the resource. Go to this resource. ST storage HR Analytics 1101. It's here live. Let's now go into storage. Let's see. The storage browser. And inside the storage browser, go into file shares. And you can see there's no file share now. Let's add a file share here. And the name, I'll just call it data. Yes, inside of a storage account, you can create several types of things. One of those things, the file share, I will choose one that is, I'll just name it data, review and create. Validation passed, good, create it. Yes, now I have the data here, and we can see that quota can be 100 terabytes. Now it's time for us to upload the dbt profiles.yaml to file share. Go into my data, and inside of this data, let's add a directory, because remember that usually Dagster that is orchestrating the dbt is looking for the .dbt folder, as we have specified before. We create a directory called .dbt. And remember that locally you have this dbt folder in your home directory, but now in file share in Azure, we have this .dbt folder, which we will mount this data later on. We go into this .dbt, and then here, let's upload. We'll upload a file, and I'll just find my profiles.yaml. These profiles, I will just drag it in. I'll drag it in from where I created it. Upload. And you can see it's uploaded. I will close this down. And you can see here there's inside this data, we have this .dbt folder. Inside here we have this profiles.yaml. And if I look into this one, there is data here. We can actually download this one if we wanted to. Okay, the only thing left here is actually, you have the storage browser here. Let's go down a little bit. You have the security and networking, and there you have access keys. This is the credentials that you will need later on when we need to access this file share to mount the data. That we will do later on when we create our Azure container instances. Let's go back now and let's create it's time for containers. And for the container, we need to have a registry where we'll place our image. This is the first step. We will have ACR, or actually it's called Azure Container Registry. Maybe we type it out, container registry. Yes, this one. We click on this one and we create this one, Azure Container Registry. Okay, here we'll use this resource group. We will combine all the things for our pipeline in this resource group, RGHR Analytics Dev. And the registry name, let's call it CRHR Analytics Container Registry HR Analytics Dev. Okay, and it's already taken, 1101. Yes, great. Sweden Central, unsecure, I can say subscription reuse. And then you see I will get the registry domain name. Let's see, pricing plan, basic. I don't need to have anything special here, I think. Our migration, yeah, exactly. Yeah, review and create. Create this one. Validation passed, great. Okay, here, let's go to this resource to see something cool. We have our settings, access keys here. And you can see the registry name and the login server. These are needed for us in order to connect to this Azure Container Registry. We will use it using Docker commands in our terminal, and to access Azure Container Registry, we need the login server, but we'll also do admin users that will get a username and a password here. Now we are ready to just copy this one, the login server, because this one you need to in our Docker Compose. Let's go back to Visual Studio Code. Okay. In Visual Studio Code, remember that this is the image that we wanted to have. The image is basically like this. It's the login server, CRHR Analytics Dev 1101. This is the login server, and this is some hash that we gotten from Azure. Just copy this one that we got from login server. And then I want my image name /HR-pipeline. I'll call it HR pipeline, and then : latest. Latest, that it will always give me a new one all the time. Better practice could be to just mention which version you're doing, that you have different versions. But to make it simple, I'll just make it latest. Actually, there's one more thing that I need to do, because I'm in an ARM-based Mac M3 chip. If you're using M1, M2, M, etc., then you do need to do this extra step. We will also add here platform. Which platform do we want? We want the platform to be Linux/AMD 64. And why is this? Because in an ARM-based Mac, M1, M2, M3, and etc., they will create images with ARM, and in Azure, it's using AMD 64. We need to create the image in this platform in order to make it work. Okay? After I've done this, let's now create my image. Docker compose build data warehouse --pipeline. I build this image. And after I built it, the idea is that I will log into my Azure Container Registry using the login server that we had before. And then afterwards, I will push this up. That is the idea. Yes, it has built. Cool. Now it's time for us to push this up. Docker push. And I will just paste in this login server. You can see this image, this login server. And we need to do, let's see, /HR-pipeline : latest. Actually, I could just copy this from the image here. I'm pushing this up. Failed to fetch anonymous token. I forgot to log in. Okay, that we need to do as well. Let me just increase this one. Let's do Docker login. and I will paste in my login server. And then the username, let's go back to Azure Container Registry. This is the username. You can see CRHR and Analytics Dev 1101. Paste this one in, yes. And then the password, I'll show this one. You cannot see the whole one anyway. I'll copy it, paste it in here and run. And when you paste it in, it will not show the password at all. But when we click the run or enter, it said login succeeded. Great. Now I should be able to do the push. Go up here, Docker push, this image here. I want to push up this image. Okay, I'm pushing this up. Okay, finished pushing it up. Let's take a look into it in Azure Container Registry. In Azure Container Registry, you go into Services, Repositories, and you should see the HR pipeline. And you can see here the tags is latest. If you had pushed several versions, you could have the V0, V1, V2, etc. But for simplicity, we only have the latest here. Okay, now we have this HR pipeline in our container registry. The next step is to spin up an Azure container instance that we can spin up the container in Azure and run it, and then it will automatically schedule the data. That is quite cool. In order to do this, we will open the Cloud Shell. And why I do this in Cloud Shell is to show you that there's actually a lot of things that you need to configure when you create the resource. But by using Cloud Shell, we can have a command that you can just basically copy paste, and it will create this for us. This is an infrastructure as code. You create this infrastructure by using code instead of clicking in the... Now I show you with Cloud Shell, but of course you could use Terraform or Biceps to do a similar thing. Okay, first time when you're creating this, when you're going to create Azure Container Instance for the first time, you actually need to do a few things first. You need to do Azure account set -- subscription. And here you need to place in your subscription ID, and then afterwards we need to register something. We need to register for the container instance. I'll go into subscription here, and I will find my subscription ID, copy this one, paste it in here, and then I will do Azure provider register -n Microsoft.container instance -wait. Okay. Here now I've registered this one to show that there is a show command that you can do. You paste in this one, Azure provider show -n Microsoft.container instance --query registration state -otsv. I'll just do that it's querying this one, this container instance, and check that if it's registered or not. If I run it and it says registered, then it's fine. And if you have this one, then you should be able to create your Azure container instance, okay, using the PowerShell or the Cloud Shell. Okay, now let us go into our notes here. This is the notes that you have. I will send this in the description as well. Create an Azure container instance with the commands below. I'll just copy this one, and we need to change it a little bit in order to make it work. I copy this one, I go into Visual Studio Code, and I will create a new file called tmp azure cli.txt. Okay, paste it in. This one is just another one that I've created to test this out. Here, we need to change a few things. This image, we need to change it to the image that we have. We go into Docker Compose. This is the image that we had. Copy this one, paste it in here. Okay, here we have, or let me explain this. We're creating this Azure container, and the OS type is Linux. Resource group, we choose this RG HR Analytics Dev. Name is the Dagster container. Image is this image. This is the one that we have in our container registry. And then the registry login server, this must be our server name. Remove that one, and it's the same as this one without slash. I can show you. I will go back to here. Let me go back to home, my resource groups. RG Analytics, HR Analytics Dev, Container Registry, that's true. Okay, this one, it's, you can see here under the access keys, and you can see here is the username, the login server, and then there's a password. Copy this one to get login server, or actually, no, not this one. Yeah, exactly, login server. Paste it here, and then we have a registry username, CRHR Analytics Dev. I think that's the username. It's 1101 as well. Copy this one. 1101, and then the registry password you remove here, and then you just copy this one and you paste it in here. I won't show it now, but I have done this before. I don't want to show my password. Okay, and then this is, firstly, all these are to that we can go into our Azure Container Registry and pick this image, basically. Then we have IP address public. We have ports 83,000. These are the ports that we expose. And then the environment variables, note here that they come from /mnt mount /data /.dbt, and then we have similar /mount /data /jobads.duckdb. These are the environment variables. Note that we don't pass it locally. Instead, they come from our file share. That's why we need to do like this Azure file volume share name data. Remember that we called it data. And then we choose the STHR analytics. Let me see if it's 1101. Let's go back here. Analytics 1101, exactly is this name. This is the name, and then you need to put in the password. And to get the password, we go into security networking, access keys, and you can see this is the key here. You copy this one in and you place it into here, insert password. And then when you have done this, you put in the passwords, then you just copy this one and you go into the CLI and you paste it in, and then you run it. Actually, there is a bug that you need to know about that, and I forgot. The bug is that in dbt project.yaml, before it was dbt-db docker_local, and the problem is that our profiles.yaml that we sent up into storage account remove the local. What you need to do is that even in this dbt project YAML, you remove the local, and after you have done that, make sure that you push this again. You do another docker compose build and data warehouse pipeline. You build this again after you have done this, and after you have done this, you build it. And when you have built it, you do docker push similarly as you did before. You push this up, that it becomes updated in your Azure Container Registry, have the updated image. And after that, when that is done, you should restart your container instance. I will show you how to do that. We're inside our container instance, which is Dagster container. And you can just click restart, and it will take some time for it to restart. Okay, and after you have done that, this means that it has the new profiles, it has the new dbt project.yaml, which points towards the correct profile. Okay, then what you need to do now is just copy this IP address and go into the browser. We go into the browser, we go into this IP address, :3000. Yes, this is your Dagster project. This is the container. We can go into assets, and you can see it has loaded these assets. We go into this lineage, and you can see this image. And here there's a lot of, you can just click on these ones to activate start automations. It means that at this time, 12:04 UTC, every day, this will run. Cool. That is super cool. It means that our Dagster, our data warehouse, the DuckDB file, it will be updated. But let's just try it once. Assets. We go into lineage, materialize all. See that this is this port here. You can see it's running. When this is running, we should be able to see this in our portal soon. I'll let this run. I'll let it run till it's finished. Or actually, I cannot wait. I go into my portal, go into resource group HR Analytics, my storage account, and I should see a DuckDB in our mount. Let's see. It's in data storage, file share, under data. And under data, you can see here browse. Yeah, sorry, I didn't find the tab. I was looking for browse. But you can see here, jobads.duckdb, and this .wal file is there for, it's a head log. It should disappear when this is finished. Okay, this is finished now. And let's just refresh this one, and you can see the .wal file disappeared, and we have our jobads.duckdb. This is cool. In the next video, we will connect to this one. If I download this job ad, and I will go into my terminal. This is my terminal, and I will go into cd downloads, duckdb job add.duckdb desk. Ah, my data is here. This is my data warehouse. This is cool. We can say select or from mart dot, I think it's called mart technical jobs. A semicolon. Yeah, perfect. And we get the data. Isn't this cool? This is cool. We have managed to dockerize and then deploy our data pipeline into Azure Container Registry. And then we have connected the file share so that we can put the output from our data pipeline into file share, that we get our jobads.duckdb into file share. And also we use the Azure Container instance to spin up the container, the image that lives in ACR. We connect it together and it works in harmony. There was a lot of setting up to do in this video, yes, but the thing is, when it comes to data engineering, the point is to set up different things. You should not be afraid of setting up things. It's just good practice so that you know how to make everything work together. It's like you put in a lot of puzzle pieces. This is super fun, and I was super happy to see the Dagster after we have created our container instance. The only thing that remains is the similar thing for our Streamlit app, our dashboard application, and then we will connect it to the file share as well. We'll see that this will also work. Super fun, and I hope that you have learned a lot in this video. See you in the next one. Bye.